Welcome everyone to the first round of the Trucks Special Event. I'm Lewis Edwards. I'm going to be taking you through this evening's proceedings. We're here tonight for the first part of 3 trucks races spread across some great British tracks. We're starting out tonight at Donington Park for a couple of rounds. We're going to have 2 rounds at the high-speed Thruxton circuit, and then we're going to finish off, as most British championships do, at the Brands Hatch circuit on the 12th of April. And as you can see, we've got some brilliant trucks to work with today. I know Kenny's been putting in a lot of work to make sure we've got some really great liveries and very bold liveries in certain cases. So it'll make all of the different trucks nice and easy to spot, so you can spot your favourite driver out there on the track. And at the moment, we've got 7 minutes of the practice session left to go, and then we're going to jump into qualifying. But at the moment, it looks like Joel Lask is the man to beat. Of course, our special event champion, if you will, from the last NASCAR special event. Joel is currently leading the way by half a second to our latest and also repeat champion, Eric Axelson. So it looks like it's going to be interesting between those two. Going to have another battle. And then Elliot Daltonaire's up there in 3rd. Rich Haven in 4th. Be good to see Rich fighting up there at the front. I know he didn't have a lot of luck in the NASCAR special events, to say the least. But it's really good to see a return to hopefully some form for Rich as he finally gets to jump in. Obviously doing all of the race directing for our championships. Rich can't be doing the driving as well. That's a bit too much for him, I think. He's got a lot to do in the background that you maybe don't get to see on when you're watching the broadcaster if you're driving. There's lots of behind the scenes stuff that he's involved in. We've got Reese Bell in 5th. Reese has got a very distinctive livery. He loves his bold liveries. Some of you may remember the leopard print livery that Reese drove back in a couple of championships, which was actually a joke with his mate to try and get him to coax him into doing a livery for him, but it didn't work and the leopard print lived on. But Reese has gone for a unique livery, which I will let you get your own opinions of without me telling you what it is. You can have a pure first time reaction seeing it. Stuart Vickers, he's also got Reese's teammate from Phoenix. He's got a very unique livery as well with a really good purpose. Paul Laramie up there in 6th at the moment. Paul with sporting his usual colours and carried some good form in GTV3 in the end. He really started to come into his own a bit more, and he's up there in 6th. Got Andy Carroll in 7th, sporting his usual livery, and he is had a bit of an off kind of season in GTV3. Andy seems to suit the front wheel drive cars much better, so in the next championship expect a return to form from him. We've got Kenny Press, the man that does all of our liveries for this particular special event and most of the championship liveries. Sometimes we'll split it between myself and him as to what gets done, but he is in 8th place. And we've got John Jones returning again as ever in 9th place, Stuart Vickers in 10th, and Josh Martin down in 11th, but I'm sure there's a lot more pace to come from Josh. We all know what Josh is capable of. But it should be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. 4 minutes of the practice session left, so not long until we're going to get underway into qualifying. But I think Rich has given them a thorough driver's briefing. They were all sat in the pits very quietly for quite a few minutes, so I think we should get some really top quality racing, but without the smashing each other out the way style you might expect from big heavy trucks piling to each other. In terms of how they drive, the way most people think of it is, if you think you've turned in at the right point, you should have turned in earlier, is the way it's been described. They are, because they're very big and heavy, you've got to make your movements quite early because they've got a huge amount of momentum and not a lot of will to change, shall we say. They don't want to turn into corners, they don't want to slow down, They don't want to accelerate. They don't really like doing anything in a hurry. But they are also quite slippery on the traction. There is a traction control setting that you can use, but if you turn it off, it can get a bit sketchy. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to look out for, is to see whether people are flicking between using it for certain corners and not, or if some people have just stick to a constant setting. Because if people are flicking between it in battle, then we might see some people forget to flick it for one corner, and we could see lots of mistakes. Any thoughts on who will get pole position? It's tough to judge. Joel currently has the fastest lap from Eric, but Eric has just set his personal best lap time, so it's hard to know. It's a really difficult one to call. I think I'm going to put my money on Joel, but I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be a good race. Joel's improving on this current lap now, as I've said that. Am I driving? No, I'm not driving. Just commentating on this one. I was debating it, but didn't want to go for it in the end. Oh, my bet's paying off so far. Joel Lask, purple middle sector in practice. So at the moment, I thought you moved the rig. Yeah, no, this isn't my rig, Lewis. That's why. It's my my desk PC. Which is why you might see me looking around to other monitors, because I've got one monitor there, one monitor in front of me, and one on the right. This is where I do all of my broadcasting stuff from. So if you tune in on the championships on the Wednesday nights, this is where it all happens from. But no, the rig is very much all the way over there. We need to try inertia on AC. It makes num cars feel good. That sounds good. I might I think I do use a little bit of that. But I do need to experiment with it. I've kind of been playing around with like wheel settings recently on iRacing and AC. Like, it's a constant battle to find ones you're happy with. I'm quite happy with the ones that I've got. I have a feeling if people saw my settings, they'd probably like laugh, because they're very unsimilar to what most people run, but they feel nice. That's the good thing about full speed back. It's all a preference thing. I wasn't tested. No. Yeah. I'll share my profile. Yeah, that'd be good if you could. Share that profile. At the moment, Joel is top. We've got 25 seconds until we get into the qualifying session. So what I'm going to do is we're going to swap over to the game, and now you can see how it looks in practice. We might notice we've got a new little UI. I spent far too many hours playing around with the HUD to make sure that we have a nice. Oh, sounds like somebody's had an accident. It's Elliot in his newly liveried truck. He's partnered with Phoenix Sim Racing. All sim racing for a really good cause. But yeah, you might notice the HUD is new. Got a new font, new colours, and I think it looks really nice. And as like a heads up for the next championship, this this bar where you see the checkered flags, that is also going to be where the push to passes will go, just like they did in the previous championships we've used them on. That'd be the MX-5s and the touring cars with hybrid. Quite a while back now. We haven't used hybrid for 2 or 3 championships now. Back in the MX-5s, where Eric won, and in the touring car with hybrid, which Eric won. And we've just finished a non-hybrid championship, which Eric also won. Bit of a common theme here. But that is the results, and then the auto start system app just puts straight into quali, and we're going to see the the cars come out of the pits now. It's going to be Joel that leads them away. So that's Joel. We've got Eric, and then Reese with his brain livery, Paul Laramie, Andy Carroll. This is Elliot in his new livery, Josh Martin. And then we've got John Jones and Scott Bugner, and then Stuart Vickers. So some familiar liveries and some new ones. But it should be really exciting to see how they all get on. I'm just going to adjust the levels of the audio and see if I can get the levels right. But the cars there, the trucks, sound quite loud compared to how they were in testing. So we're just going to do a little bit of adjusting with that. I have had to sort that out before the stream. Right, hopefully that should be good levels wise, and hopefully we're going to get some good qualifying laps at the moment. Joel set 2 purple sectors so far, but this is just the out lap at the moment, so he's obviously pushing the hardest at the moment to get his tyres up to temps. And we're with our newest champion, Eric Axelson, who closed out the GTV3s in the finale in quite a tough battle in the end at Silverstone, but he did what he needed to and managed to take home the win. But at the moment, well, on the outlap at least, it's Joel Lask and Josh Martin occupying the purple sectors. I'm sure Josh will be the one person that'll find some unique trick for that final chicane. Josh is very good at finding those little tricks of driving the car. But at the moment, it is Joel Lask with the purple first sector. He's a tenth and a bit up on Eric, who's got the second quickest at the moment. Everybody else is a few tenths back on those two. At the moment, it is those two leading the way with the first sector. Can't really hear the game sound too much. Okay, I'm going to boost that a little bit then. So let me know how that is. Through the second sector, it's another purple for Joel Lask, who's pulled a whopping 6 tenths on Eric through that middle sector. And everybody else's times coming in aren't any quicker than Eric's. Joel has put in a mega middle part of the lap there and has gone fastest with a 23.4. That is a big statement, but Eric pulls it back in the final sector, pulls back a tenth on Joel there. But that is 6.5 tenths on our newest champion. Fair play, Joel. That is a big lap from him. He was quickest in the server, but only by a couple of tenths in practice. But most of that advantage is coming through the middle part of the lap, which is the most technical and demanding part of the lap. Oh, Eric's gone for a bit of an adventure there. So we'll have a look at Joel. No improvements on this current lap, but he's still very similar in the first sector to his previous lap. A bit more on the game sound, okay. That's as high as it can go on that, so change another slider if that's not enough. But we're going to get Joel's middle sector time very shortly. We'll see how he compares to the ultimate best lap. He's only a tenth down, so it is really close. Good consistency from Joel. We've got Brad Smith in the chat. I haven't seen Brad racing with us for a while, but good to see you. I know Brad pops back in the chat every once in a while. You can see Joel's bailed for the pit lane. I have a feeling this is going to be a similar thing for everybody. We'll go back to Paul Laramie, if I can find his name in the list. He's one of the people who has carried on. Because I've got the live timings on this screen, so I can see what sectors everybody is doing, which is quite a tricky thing to balance, is finding who to follow. And what was about? I had to sell my rig, but might get it. Yeah, I think you should, Brad. You should come back and race with us. It'd be really good to have you back. Alright, I'm going to try boosting the volume some more. See how that goes. if that's a bit better. So at the moment, we've had no change at the top of the order, but then Eric has got a whopping 6/10 back to Josh Martin. So it is bigger margins than I was expecting. So the trucks are a difficult beast to master, but it is certainly proving that it does seem to exaggerate the gaps between drivers. Obviously no success ballast, as this is round 1. That is something that will take effect for 5 of the drivers to varying extents. Ooh, Eric set a purple final sector there of a 19 flat, so that's pulled a couple of tenths back. Elliot's also done a 19 flat in that final sector as well, so Eric's pulled it back to 2 tenths now. So he had a much better middle part of the lap as well. He gained 4 tenths in the middle part of the lap and a tenth in the final part, but I think he's going straight on here. That looked like that's in the gravel, and Reese has followed him. They're all seeming to go wide here. The camera doesn't want to update to go and see what's going on. So, now it does. So you see Eric has been off. That'll have put a fair bit of heat into his tyres. That's Stuart Vickers going off in the background. So they're really finding that corner quite tricky, as Joel has set another purple sector 1. So are we going to see some improvement from him? I think we'll hop on board with Joel and see how he's getting on. Takes the curb nicely, doesn't get any wheel spin on the exit, so it looks like it's been a good run through there, but has it been better than his previous lap? Ever so slightly, so there's a tiny bit more time in it for him. Has he had a good final chicane? We got a little bit of oversteer there, but was clean on the exit. So let's see what this time produces. It's a very small improvement for Joel, but not much. He set purple first and purple second sector, but still lost 2 tenths to Eric in that final corner. So there's still improvement for Joel. Eric has now returned back to the pits to set a new put a new set of boots on his Scania truck he's running. If you look at the column to the left of the driver numbers, it's a bit hard to see, but that can Rich Hayden third. That can tell you what truck everybody is in. Can't remember exactly the name of the one that Joel, Rich, Scott and Elliot have picked. It's got an unfamiliar name, that'll be why. But I can tell you, Eric and Josh Martin appear to be the only two that have picked the Scania truck. Paul Laramie is the only one that picked the Mercedes. Andy Carroll is repping the Iveco truck. Reese Bell and Stuart Vickers are running the MAN truck. And we've got Kenny in the Renault and John Jones in the DAF. So we've got a big range of trucks. Game audio cutting and there's a bit. Have you got compression turned on? No, I think the game audio, the way it does stereo imaging left to right, is a bit over the top. So when it's in this camera angle, it's a bit tricky to get it right. It's kind of a weird thing with calculating it when it's online, I think. So that is probably why it's not so great. But on board is obviously louder because you're closer to the audio source. And it's a little thing that I think is either my settings or could be improved in Custom Shaders Patch with a better version. So at the moment, we've got Joel, Eric and Rich, the top 3. That's a really good lap from Rich. I wonder how he's getting on with his motion sim, because Rich will be racing from the VRRC Centre in Leighton Buzzard, and he'll be racing on his rig with motion, full motion platform. It's got quite large range of motion. You've probably got about a metre of motion, I would estimate. So I'm sure the last chicane curves will be really fun in that. But it seems to be doing quite well for immersion and lap time, because he's doing really well up there in 3rd place, ahead of Scott Bugner, who was almost on to win our latest championship until his internet decided to give way, which rather denied us a brilliant fight between him and Eric. And I honestly don't know who would have come out on top in that little battle. Yeah, when the camera's far, the audio is too quiet. When it's close, it's too... well, it's about right. It's an annoying little problem to have. I might have to look into compressing the audio a bit more when it's in onboard. But I'll just boost the audio a little bit. So it should be okay enough, hopefully. Oh, John's gone for a little adventure there. And Joel is pretty much on pace with his time. We've got Scott, Josh and Elliot all improving. In fact, they're separated by less than half a tenth in the first sector, the three of them. So it's going to be close in the battle for 4th. But sadly, Elliot has lost 3/10 to Josh in the 2nd sector. So I don't think he's going to be quite on pace unless he has a really good final chicane. See, Joel's lost a bit of time in that. Oh, Rich has had a bit of an adventure there. Has gone off a little bit. Go back to Josh Martin, who does appear to be running on his own in qualifying. Now, this is something that I don't think the commentators have talked about much, but whenever it's a qualifying session, Josh is always in buckets of free air. No matter whether it's Monza or Monaco, I'm sure Josh would always prefer that clear road in front of him to just focus on his lap time, not trying to pick up a toe from anyone. He's always on some kind of empty bit of track. It's really great because on the track map, which comes up on the live timing, you can see where all of the trucks are with regards to each other and on the track. So you can always see who's where on the track, which is why at the end of the qualifying session, I'll always look at who's going to come across that finish line first and then progressively focus on the next person after that person has completed their final flying lap. That's an interesting line from Elliot there that we've just picked up. That will have given him a track cut, surely. And I think he'll have backed off. Yes, it did give him a cut, but he did an 18.2 in that final sector. I think he was speeding through it just to make sure he's got enough time for 2 flying laps, because these people, barring no issues, will all get round for 1 lap. Josh is cutting it close there with that. But now, after Scott Bugner, who is going to need to put in a flyer, everybody else is going to be coming across the finish line to finish their lap. That's good of Josh to get out of the way there. So, have we got anybody improving at the moment? Not really. We're going to have a look at Elliot, who has improved his first sector time, sporting a new livery and the Phoenix Sim Racing sticker, which you'll see on the bonnet quite clearly there. Elliot is also branching into real racing. He's bought himself a Rotax kart and is also going to be sponsored by Phoenix in that as well. I think I hear that deal's in the works. So he's out there promoting a really good cause in Phoenix Sim Racing. I've got Pan in the chat. For those of you that don't know, Pan used to race in an old esports team with me. Absolute legend is Pan. Always one for a good laugh, and we've had many a good jokes while sim racing. No green sectors coming through on this current lap at the moment. Now, did Scott Bugner make the flag? No, he didn't. It was close. A few people haven't quite made the flag there. Fear Rich is going to tumble down the order if people don't start improving. So let's have a look where we are on the track at the moment. Eric isn't going to improve, so it looks like it is going to be Joel Lask on pole position at the moment. There doesn't seem to be any green sectors going on at the moment. Everybody is in the orange, which means, unfortunately, they're not improving, but nobody seems to be improving at the moment, apart from Scott Bogner, who, after missing the checkered flag, has set his personal best first sector. So it did look like he definitely missed it. But Scott's obviously trying to get some practice in for the race, but unfortunately, this lap isn't going to count. I don't know if he knows whether it's going to count or not, but I think he's just pressing on regardless. So we will follow him round on his lap that may or may not count. Now he's 6/10 off, so he's going to need a good final chicane. But if he manages that, I think he will potentially have a little bit of an improvement. He doesn't get an invalidation at the chicane and doesn't get too bad a run now. Failing for the pits, so looks like... Oh, Josh Martin's gone up to fourth. I think that was a timing glitch. Got all excited there. I think Josh just had a little bit of a glitch there. Maybe he had to rejoin the server or something. But at the moment, it looks like that's going to be the order. So I was right. It is going to be Joel Lask on pole position from Eric, and it's going to be a good race. So, interesting qualifying session. Now, Scott Bugner, by the way, also improved in the second sector. So I don't know what sort of lap time that would have put him on. So I don't know. It doesn't say what kind of sectors his best lap was. That would be something I would like, actually. Do you know what? I'm going to write this down because Rich Hayden does chat to the people who organise our servers quite a lot. It's a company that sells their servers, and it comes with a nice web page to do all of the editing on. But he's in contact with them very frequently about how they helping them with ideas on how they can improve the server and the server manager for us and for everybody else that pays for the service. Alright then. We are 4 minutes away from the race, so it is going to be a little bit of a wait until we get underway. So what you can get a little bit of a insider info on how I do some of the bits when it comes to the broadcast. What I normally like to do is to put the camera somewhere else where you can see a bit better what's actually going on when it comes to trucks, to the start. So putting the camera somewhere like here, zooming the FOV in, and then going back to the broadcast layout. And then I need to try and line it up so the start lights will come on up there, and then the order isn't impaired by anything in the background too much. So let's have a look. Let's see if you can get 2 for 2. Thoughts on who may win? Ooh, this is a tough one because I don't know. I think I am going to go with Joel purely on the basis that I did see Eric crash in qualifying. I didn't see any errors from Joel. And when you're kind of within that 2/10 pace-wise, then that kind of an error is make or break because you can't then regain that ground very easily. But it could go either way, and I'm hoping that we do get a fight between all of them. Interestingly, though, it's LB Motorsport, Mean Green Racing Team, LB Motorsport, Mean Green Racing Team, because we've got Scott Bugner and Josh Martin in P3 and P4. So are the teammates going to be helping, or are they going to be all out for themselves because it's a special event? It's more of a fun style of event, but I think there are trophies on the line, and certainly a lot of pride on the line. So I think they might be a bit all out for themselves when it comes to round one, at least. But I think they'll be careful around fighting each other, just to make sure they don't bin each other off. But I think they will go for a move if it's on. So yeah, we've got a minute left on the countdown now, so only a minute until lights out. I'm now going to note down my idea about sectors. You can hear somebody revving their truck ever so slightly. So I hope they've got enough fuel. Every man for himself. Yeah, it seems to be that way. So we'll see how we get on. But I hope it's elbows out, clean but hard racing. I've written down my good idea for the servers now. If you do want to get the live timing, that is available in the Discord server. But we're about to get the lights on in a second. And it's going to be Joel Lask that leads them away. What kind of a start is Eric going to get? Oh, it's a good one. Joel got a bit slower away. But is Eric going to pull in front? Yes, he is. What a start from Eric. And Scott Bugner up the inside into P2, going into turn 1. Is that Rich Hayden going for third? It is as well. So Joel's being shuffled back here. We hope the camera cuts round the corner soon. And it doesn't. It's Eric and Scott. And then we've got Joel in third. Rich Hayden fourth. Elliot Dalton-Ayres up to fifth. Josh Martin's gone backwards off the start. We've got Paul Laramie 6th, Reese Bell 7th, Andy Carroll 9th, and we've got Stuart Vickers, John Jones and Kenny Press arguing over the final 3 places at the moment. But it looks like it's been a great start from Eric Axelson. Really, Eric's specialty is getting whatever car it is, or truck in this case, off the line. But Scott's going for the lead up the inside. Is he going to take the place? Can Eric hold it round the outside here? Really difficult corner to go round the outside and to go side by side. I think there's a little bit of contact there. Is Joel now going to slip up the inside as well? Is he going to help his teammate, or is he going for a move into the final chicane? It looks like Scott's going to go side by side with Eric through the final chicane. How much room is going to be given? Respect to them. That was a lot of fair racing there. But is Eric going to now have given Joel the opportunity to have a run at him into turn 1, because he did take a lot of caution into that final chicane. You can see Elliot going for the move on the outside of Rich Hayden there. We'll see if he pulls that one off when they come into shot. They're still side by side, but it looks like Rich has held firm in the braking zone there. Eric has been shuffled back, so now Rich is up to third. He must have taken some weight out of his truck to get up to third. Wow. But Eric has been shuffled back, so Joel did indeed manage to get up the inside there, I think. But that also shuffled Eric down past Rich. So now he's on the back foot. Will he be able to start steadying the ship and coming back towards Rich? We'll see. And is Joel going to be out there to try and catch Scott? It's going to be an interesting race for sure. We've got 2 20-minute races, and we are going to have a full reverse grid for that second race, as we usually do, by the way. So what have we got on track at the moment? It looks like Eric catching Rich is the closest battle we've got on track. And he's got a good run out of the hairpin. But I don't think a move into the final chicane is wise, as Eric has found out it is very difficult to do that side by side and not lose time. So is he going to get a good run? Rich has got a bit of oversteer on the curb there, so has that given Eric a good run? He's got a fairly decent run, but not quite. Joel with the fastest lap now. It's only a 10th quicker than Scott though, so I think Scott's got some really good race pace at the moment. He was blisteringly quick in the GTV3s in qualifying trim. He was very, very fast in qualifying trim, especially at Fuji. That was a mega lap from Scott. But he also backed it up with some solid race pace. And are we going to see a move from Eric? Not quite. Is he going to set up the exit? It looks like he's got a bit of a better line. Looks like he's trying to pull out of the slipstream to make a move, but not quite. Joel is closing onto the back of Scott now. 3/10 gained in that first sector for Joel. It looks like Eric hasn't been able to make the move just yet. He's not wanting to put too much pressure on Rich that he starts defending and making mistakes, because then he'll lose time to the LB Motorsport pair at the front of the field. So Rich has gone a bit wide there. That might give Eric a better run. He dips a wheel into the grass, but that shouldn't hurt his momentum too much. Eric's going to need a good run through the final chicane here. Rich has had a much better middle part of the lap. Yeah, I think Joel might have had the traction control off for the start. Ooh, big curb hit for Eric there. He got a bit squirrely through the mid part there. The suspension of his truck didn't seem to like that one, but now I think he's got the move. Joel has gained a couple of tenths on that lap. I think Scott has got the final part of the lap nailed, whereas Joel is still lacking in that final chicane. Don't know what it is, but that's where Joel is struggling. He's gaining considerably in those first two sectors, but he's losing it in that final chicane. Another driver who is doing very well through there is Elliott, who is latching onto the back of these pair. He did lose a tenth to this battle on the previous lap, but he's lapping about the same at the moment. We've got another purple sector for Joel, so he's edging towards Scott now. He just needs to line up the move. Rich and Eric are beginning to drop back now, so if Eric wants a chance at this win, he is going to need to start thinking about making a move on Rich and then beginning to close that gap down. So are we going to see a move into turn one? He's going to have to set up a good line through this chicane. It looks like Joel and Scott are going to start battling. This could hurt. That gap could be eradicated very quickly if these two start battling away. It'll open the door to now the train of three, because Elliott's really beginning to close in through that middle sector. He's gained a tenth, and I think he's gained a few more, but Joel is going for the lead. He's had a much quicker last lap. He's going around the outside of turn one. Can he make it stick? Scott slams the door shut and says, no, thank you. You're not going to have it that easy. You might be my teammate, but that's not happening that easily. So they're a tenth apart. And now, are they going to make a move through Old Hairpin? No, they're not. They're going to keep it status quo for now. But I think it's only a matter of time as there's contact on the exit. It looked like Joel ever so slightly hit the back of Scott there. A little bit of contact, but it looks like they're all okay. This is definitely dragging the gap out. They've lost 4 tenths to Rich and the battle behind. They were comfortably gapping in just that first sector. And I think that gap is going to be coming down more now if they continue to battle. We'll get the second sector split in not too long. They're going to be coming through it about now. We're going to see as Joel shapes up to the outside again. It's another 2 tenths in the middle sector for Rich and Eric. So they're going to be on this battle very soon. Joel can't hold it around the outside. And a big bounce over the curbs. That's going to send him wide. I think Scott's going to be safe into turn one now. Eric doesn't appear to have a quick enough run. So it might have to be a dive from Eric if he wants to get Rich into turn one here. But I think he might be starting to realise that the LB Motorsport pair in front, having that battle, is going to give him the chance to catch up nicely. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting as we've now got pretty much a 4-way fight for the lead nearly. Rich is not that far off that front pair now. He's within a second. And that is also dragging Elliott, who's just about clinging on to the back of Eric into the frame. Behind this lot, we've got a little bit of a 3-way battle between Paul Laramie, Josh Martin and Reese Bell. But it looks like Josh has made a bit of a mistake somewhere there. Or is Reese catching him up? I don't know, but we'll see. Reese in his brain liveried truck. Certainly won't be missing that one anywhere. Taking on Josh in his traditional green and white colours. The battle for the lead has slowly started to pad out a bit. Rich is slowly closing in on the lead too at the moment. as we're going to see when they come across the line what the last lap times are like. But it looks like Joel is dropping away ever so slightly from Scott now. So after setting that lap where he was half a second quicker than Scott Bugner, he's losing pace now, and that's bringing Rich into play nicely, and he's slowly bringing Eric and Elliot into play. But I think Elliot has made a little bit of a mistake on this lap. He's had a bit of a slow final sector, so I think that's why he's dropped back. I think he might have caught the curb wrong or something. It looks like Reese is chasing down Josh Martin. These two not normally... Oh no, Reese is on the grass! Is he going to keep it on the track? Just about. But that's the danger of taking too much speed through there. He just clipped the grass, and that unsettled the car, and that's meant that all of his hard work is going away. But we can see Rich is really closing in now. So he's really getting on to the back of Joel Lask now. And Eric is there or thereabouts. He might get there a bit slower, but he is slowly closing in as well. So it's the middle sector where Rich has gained 3/10 and Eric has gained a 10th. So they are on their way. But Joel struggles through this final chicane. This is going to be where those pair really begin to close in. Eric has had a very good final sector there by the looks of it. Yeah, he's a 19.1. That's very fast. Gained a full 3/10 on Rich just through that one corner. Because the final sector is basically just that final chicane. It's been a good end to the lap for Eric. So for lap times wise, 24.3 for both the LB Motorsport pair, 24.5 for Rich after that slower final corner, and then Eric is down to a 24.2. So they are coming into play. Elliot is beginning to drop back now on a 25.0. So I think his pace is slowly starting to fade away at the moment. It looks like Eric is closing up to the back of Rich now. Maybe Rich has overdone his tyres a little bit. I think it might be to do with the tyres. Maybe they're overheating the tyres with going for it. And then they overheat the tyres a bit too much, and then their pace drops off because the tyres are too hot. Because now, from looking like he was about to challenge Joel Lask for second place, he is now a second and a half off and being passed by Eric Axelson up the inside into the final corner. And that looks like job done. Eric threw up into third place. And now Joel has begun to edge his way closer towards Scott Bugner for the race lead. He gained half a second on that lap, down to a 23.8 for Joel there. So that was a big lap from Joel. But now it's important for him to try and make that move when he's got this pace advantage. Is that going to fade, or is that advantage going to stick with him? We will find out. You can see he's getting closer. He's separated by not very much on track in pretty much anything. That's proving in the trucks that yet again they are fairly similarly matched, as it looks like Joel is beginning to close in now. Gap down to 4/10. So a little bit of dust there on the exit, so maybe Scott's dipped a wheel in to the grass, just extending it too much there, maybe under the pressure now. Are we going to see a move from Joel into turn one? Surely not going to see one into the final chicane, but it looks like he's lining it up. He's going for the outside. Now this doesn't tend to work normally, and it looks like he's broken early. Make sure that they don't go side by side so we can get a good run, and then see if he can sort something out for turn one. And the camera pans, we're going to see him side by side. He's got the outside line. Is Joel going to be able to make it work? Another half a second on that last lap for Joel. Big lap for Scott as Joel goes to the outside. Scott blocks him. Don't think Joel's managed to make it around the outside there, so he's going to have to line a move up elsewhere. So on the last lap, got Eric just a little bit off the pace of these guys. Only a couple attempts though, and if they start to battle, that'll bring him right into play. As Joel is practically pushing him round Old Hairpin there. The gap is less than 2/10 between them. It looks like Eric has been off there, so I think he's had a bit of a mistake there. Pushing just that little bit too hard. Got Joel and Scott for the lead. Is Joel going to try again to get to the outside? It looks like that hasn't worked for him every time he's tried it. So I wonder if he could try something else. It looks like he's tried to get underneath him on the exit onto the straight here, but I don't think he's managed it. They're side by side. Joel going for the outside again. I think he's trying to put Scott offline and then try and get a good exit enough to somehow pull a move into turn one. So let's see how it goes on this lap. Good line from Scott and Joel there. So I don't think that's going to have made enough of a difference for it to be much different. So he's going to pull out again onto the main straight to try and go around the outside. I think Scott's just going to do exactly what he did last time. Yeah, he's just shown him the door, and Joel hasn't been able to get underneath him on the exit, so he's not going to be able to make the move there. I think he might have to start trying to make a move somewhere else to try and get around Scott, because I don't think with the current strategy that's going to be enough to get past him. I think he's going to have to spring a move on Scott to try and get around him. Scott is one of our best wheel-to-wheel racers in the championship. He's normally always very clean and very good at making crucial moves. That's what won him driver of the round in Suzuka. It was when he made a crucial move immediately in race 2. And it wasn't just one either. He made one big move we saw, but there were plenty of big moves from Scott, which got him towards the front in race 2 of Suzuka, and that put him in a brilliant championship position. And are we going to see something different on this final chicane, or is it going to be the same sort of approach? I think Joel's a bit further back this time, so I wonder if he's going to try a dive this time. I think on that line he's a bit too far back. Oh, he was thinking about it. He thought about it at the last minute there, but didn't quite manage to make it stick, unfortunately. Oh, and that's let Eric through. That's let Eric through. Has Joel got a problem? Eric has found mega pace. What's going on here? Eric is suddenly on the back of them. Don't know if there's some kind of issue for them on the exit there, but Eric is now fighting for the lead out of absolutely nowhere. We must have missed it while the camera wasn't updating, but Eric is now up into second place and fighting for the lead. So now this has thrown a spanner in the works for Scott and Joel with 3.5 minutes to go. So it looks like we're going to get 2 more laps to go at the end of this one. So are we going to see a move for Eric for the lead? It's going to be close, and it's going to be interesting. Let's have a look. So, yeah, big first sector mistake for both the LB Motorsport trucks. So that's where Eric has found that time. It's a mistake from the front too. And Scott has invalidated, and so has Rich. They're both invalidated. As Eric goes to the lead around the outside, he's made it much better on the brakes than Joel did. Has he managed to hold it around the outside? Not quite. Scott's been very good at defending through turn 1. Just nobody's been able to find that way through. But are they going to try and make a move elsewhere? As it looks like Joel's going for the inside at Old Hairpin. Oof. It was close, but I don't think there was any contact. And he didn't manage to make the move stick. So are we going to see a move from Eric now in the same sort of places that Joel has tried? Or has he got something else planned? And is he going to try and spring a move on Scott elsewhere? So he dipped a wheel on the gravel on the inside there. I think that slowed his momentum slightly. So that's given Scott a little bit of time to breathe. Eric is really sending it into that second part of the corner there, and that's given a bit of an advantage to Scott now, as we see Joel closing in ever so slightly on the relative now. So Joel is the one looking to make the move now. Be interesting to see how they are through the final chicane. All very similar lines through that final chicane. I don't think there's going to be any moves from 4.5 tenths back. But it looks like Eric has got a much quicker truck in a straight line. Towards the end of the straight, I think he's running a different gear ratio, because he gains a huge amount of time on the end of the straights there compared to Scott and Joel. I think that might be a big factor in why he was able to get much further alongside than Joel managed to get on Scott. But it's going to be interesting to see how we get on, as Joel is right on the back of Eric now. It's not quite managed to make a move yet. Eric has dropped back a bit. So this is going to be, I think, one more to go. I don't think they're quite going to get to the line in time for this to be the final lap. So I think it is going to be another lap for Scott to hold on. But I think he, at the moment, mistake-free, has done what he needs to do. I think they're a bit too far back to challenge him. But I hope we'll get a last lap battle to find out. As we see Eric weaving a little bit to try and break the slipstream to Joel, who I think has got to shape for a move up the inside here, which he does, but he doesn't quite make it on the brakes. Oh, there's a minimal bit of contact there, but they make it through, and it looks like Eric has done enough to hold the place. So now Scott has got a big advantage. I don't think there's any way without a mistake Eric will be able to close that down. So now it's a question of, can he hold on to Joel? And can he keep that second place? Or has Joel got some new move in his locker that he's going to use to try and make that pass happen? It's tough to say, but we will find out. He's going to get a good exit. Not quite. Eric has pulled on the exit there quite a lot. He's had a very good middle part of the lap. So it looks like it's going to be everybody holding stations the rest of the race. We are on the final lap. So into the final chicane comes Scott Bugner, and he has held off a mighty challenge from Joel Lask and Eric Axelson. And as we head down the main straight, it is going to be Scott Bugner who wins the first round of the truck special event from Eric Axelson, Joel Lask. Rich Hayden finished fourth, ahead of Elliot Dalton-Ayres, Paul Laramie, Josh Martin, Reese Bell, Andy Carroll, Kenny Press, John Jones and Stuart Vickers by the looks of it, as we wait for those to come across the line. But wow, I predicted it was going to be a Joel Lask win. I was almost there. It was his teammate Scott Bugner who has taken the win there ahead of Eric and Joel. And it really proved, I think, that the trucks are very much difficult to drive, but you could definitely race close with them. And I think the tyres going off a cliff temporarily when it comes to temperatures means that some drivers can push a bit harder than others in certain places, gain time, but then they'll lose it from pushing the tyres as much as they do. That covers race number 1. We are now going to wait for race number 2, which brought to you in a few minutes' time. Yeah, we've now had everybody across the line. So it is Scott who wins from Eric, Joel, Rich, Elliot, Paul, Josh Martin, Reese Bell, Andy Carroll, Kenny Press, John Jones, Stuart Vickers. That is all of the finishers. What a race. That was a good start to the truck special event. We've got a few minutes until the next race because Rich has left the countdown at what we usually have on the championships for our interviews. So instead, if anybody has any questions, VRRC questions, or just questions for me, car or whatever, then just pop them in the chat and do kind of a little Q&A and just general discussion while we wait for the second race. which should be brought to you in about 5 minutes' time. I'll be able to get you in a more accurate number shortly. In the end, it was quite a close finish. Elliott did drop off, but he steadied the ship. He was about 2 seconds off when I said he started dropping back. And then after quite a few minutes and quite a lot of fast, clear laps from the leaders, he's only 3.2 back at the end of the race. Now we've got Dave from the YouTube chat. And yeah, Eric has done a good job for you there. Unfortunately, it looks like Josh hasn't quite done as well as you might have hoped in 7th. I think he started from 3rd or 4th on the grid. I think it was 4th. Scott was in 3rd. It was good to have Dave in the chat. If you follow the VRRC Championship broadcasts, you will of course know Dave, who's infamous for his hilarious comments like this one. Josh Martin not doing well. Typical. Yep. That is the sort of comment we know Dave for, and we do have a good laugh about all of the things that Dave puts in the chat, in some of the advert breaks and in the Discord chat that we have for the broadcasts. We do love the more light-hearted comments as well as the general supportive ones that we get. So we've got 3 minutes and 20 seconds until lights out for the second race. And it's going to be Stuart Vickers in his jigsaw liveried car, which is in his little truck, ahead of John Jones, Kenny Press, Andy Carroll, Reese Bell, Josh Martin, Paul Laramie, Elliot Dalton-Ayres, Rich Hayden, Joel Lask, Eric Axelson, and Scott Bugner. Those are the drivers that are going to be taking part in the second installment of tonight's action. And hopefully we're going to get just as good racing in second round as we did in the first race a few minutes ago. Oh, I don't know who's going to win this one. This one's going to be tricky to predict. I think it could go many a way, this one. I don't know if it's going to be more beneficial for those, how easy it's going to be to overtake. It's going to be a tricky one. I think this race kind of sets the precedent for how we might expect the reverse grid races to go. So this is kind of a lot of learning for what we might see in the future. I'm really excited for it. I think it'd be interesting to see if we can get kind of a reverse grid underdog story, or if those drivers who did manage to pull away in race 1 are going to be able to carve their way through to get that good result that they're hoping for. We've got a minute and a half until lights out. Going to go in and have a look at the grid. It's going to be Stuart Vickers who leads them away for Phoenix Sim Racing, ahead of John Jones and Kenny Press, the top 3 at the moment. And I believe Joel Last did get the fastest lap in that previous race, so he's already got himself 4 bonus points, I believe, as I'm pretty sure we're going for the same point scoring system, which would be 1 for fastest lap, 1 for pole position, and 3 for fastest lap in both of the races. So whoever gets fastest lap in this one will also receive an extra points to their championship tally. It means that Joel is probably quite close with Scott at the moment when it comes to points. I would imagine that Joel is, I would say, 2 points behind at a guess, based on the previous, it won't tell me the results, but the lights are on, so we're going to find out who's going to win the second race. And we can see the real lights illuminating the track, and we go for the second round of the Truck Racing Championship. It's been a great start from Stuart Vickers. Paul Laramie on the grass, trying to make it 3 wide into turn 1. He loves to squeeze through the tiny gaps, and he's going to try and pass Reese Bell for second place. As we had contact, Rich Hayden dropping down. Haven't seen what's happened there. But Joel Ask is sideways. Joel has dropped back. And we see Kenny Press has gone off somewhere. Can't actually see where that is. But I think that's at the exit of turn 1. But at the moment, we've got Stuart Vickers still in the lead. And we've got battles all throughout the field as they're just trying to navigate their way through this first lap. As we've got Rich trying to go for... Oh, Joel's strong! Joel spun on the exit of Old Hairpin there. I think he dipped a wheel on the grass and got a bit too enthusiastic with the loud pedal. And Andy Carroll looks like he's going off there. We'll just slow down Eric Axelson. They're 3 wide now. Andy, and there's an LB Motorsport car in the middle. How is it going to resolve itself? It looks like Elliott's going to get the place up the inside. Great racing on the first lap so far. We've got battles all throughout the field. But at the moment, Stuart Vickers, real-life truck racing engineer, is doing it justice in the lead from his Phoenix Sim Racing teammate Reese Bell, as there's a move between Elliott and Andy Carroll and now Scott into the final chicane. So they are trying to make it work. So Rich Hayden up to 6th place though. He's the highest of our top 4 in race 1 at the moment. Looks like Andy Carroll shaping up a move on Eric Axelson, 2nd place man in race 1, and Andy makes the move stick by the looks of it. Yeah, good move from Andy. And now is that going to invite Scott Bugner to try and pass Eric in the background there? It looks like Stuart's doing a good job here. Reese is slowly closing in though, and he's dragging Paul Laramie with him. There looks to be a big battle between Josh Martin and John Jones over that 4th place at the moment. I think Josh looks like he's shaping up a move. He's got to be careful not to leave the door open for Rich Hayden, who is closing on him rapidly. I think Rich at the moment has a good chance at potentially a race win here if he can manage to clear the traffic nicely and has enough raw pace advantage over those around him. Well, Joel is well and truly out of it, barring a safety car at the moment, because he's 6.5 seconds down on Eric Axelson, and him and Scott are right next to each other. So will we see Josh make a move on John? No, Josh has dropped back a bit more, and it looks like Andy Carroll is still holding his own against Scott and Eric at the moment. And looks like Reese Bell with the fastest lap is now making a move for the lead on Stuart Vickers, but no, not quite. He wasn't confident enough on the brakes, wanted to make sure he didn't clatter into his teammate, but Joel Ask with the fastest lap now. I would imagine Joel is desperately trying to keep hold of that fastest lap to try and save himself some championship points if he can. Now are we going to see a move from Josh Martin here? In the background we can see Scott has passed Andy Carroll, and now him and Eric are going side by side. Are they going to make it stick side by side? Yes, they are. It looks like Stuart Vickers has had a bit of an issue there. Can't see what's happened, but it looks like he's dropped down. Maybe a mistake, because that's put Reese Bell into the lead, and Rich Hayden up to 3rd place now. And Paul Laramie is right on the back of Reese now. So there might have been some kind of issue through there. Looks like we're almost going to be 3 wide between Stuart, Elliott and Josh Martin there. Down the back straight now, it's going to be Reese Bell who leads for Phoenix Sim Racing ahead of Paul Laramie. It looks like Josh has had a bit of an issue there as well. Oh, side by side into the final chicane there from Elliott and Stuart. That was quite aggressive line. And it looks like they're battling very closely in the mid-pack there. And are they going to make it through turn 1 safely? It looks like Elliott's at the inside. Can Josh follow him through? And then can Scott Bugner follow Josh through? Looks like Elliott is in the process of making the move. And it looks like he's got the move done. But no, little tap from Stuart sends them both off. Are they going to rejoin the track safely? No, they're not. But it looks like Scott Bugner's going to make it past the pair of them. Elliott's dropping down the order as he's gone straight on. John Jones has gone for a little bit of a grass mowing trip there as he's dropping down. I think he might have been caught up in that, as he's been caught by Josh Martin there, I think it is. There's a little bit of contact there with Josh and John, as we can see Rich Hayden going around the outside of Paul Laramie. Let's see if he can pull that one off. That was a bold move if he can make that stick. Oh, it looks like he has. It looks like he's managed to get the exit up into second place for Rich Hayden now. But Scott Bugner is closing on this trio rapidly now. And if they start battling, that might cost them time and give those who didn't have the best start to the race the chance to bring themselves back up the order. Joel, who's carried on going as quickly as he could to try and capitalise, has now capitalised. As we see Rich going for the outside, is he going to make this one stick, or is Reese going to slam the door shut? I think Reese is going to be trying to slam that door firmly shut. As we can see Joel going for a move on Elliott in the background there. Looks like Reese has done enough, and that's giving Paul Laramie an opportunity to see if he can pass Rich. But it looks like it's everybody holding station at the moment for now. I think Reese might have gone a touch wide into old hairpin there, though. Are we going to see Joel with a move on Elliott in the background? Looks like Rich has got up the inside of Reese Bell there. I don't know if he's going to make the move stick, because the next corner is a right-hander, and that's going to give Reese the inside. He's now going to run him wide. And is that going to be the move done for Rich? He's certainly trying to squeeze Reese, but Reese will send it in on the brakes here and do the same back. And it looks like Reese has reclaimed that top spot, as there's a little bit of contact with, I believe that's Josh Martin and Stuart Vickers again. And it looks like Stuart Vickers is dropping down a place to Andy Carroll. Now is Rich going for, he's going for the inside at the final chicane, but Paul Laramie, oh no, Paul hits Reese. They both go off. Is that going to give the lead to Reese, to Rich Hayden? And Scott Bugner, after all that gap, is now sniffing at the lead himself. He's closed that gap down completely himself. And now he's going for the move on Rich immediately. He's wasting no time sticking his nose up the inside. Is he going to get a good enough exit? No, it looks like Rich has covered him on the exit there. But Scott well and truly in the fight for the lead now, after being a few seconds off. All that battling has brought him right into play nicely. And unfortunately, a little bit of late braking from Paul Laramie there has sent Reese off and scuppered his chances of a win a bit there. But it looks like Scott's made a mistake, so that's giving Rich Hayden some breathing space at the front of the race. And it looks like Eric Axelson now, out of, again, nowhere, is starting to bring his way forward in the race. But that's a big send from Reese, but he hasn't managed to make it stick, unfortunately. Not quite able to make that one work. He was just a little bit too far back, but he managed not to make any contact. It looks like Eric's got a good exit. Is he going to be shaping up a move on Paul Laramie soon? But we've seen Scott Bugner drop back a bit now from Rich Hayden for the lead. So that'll give Rich the opportunity to save the tyres, keep the temps down. Eric is going for the outside. That's brave. He hasn't made it stick. A little bit of a camera glitch there, but Paul Laramie goes off. That delays Eric, and I think Reese Bell has got past the pair of them. Josh Martin on the grass has done the pair of them. Can he keep it in a straight line? Surely not. He can. Josh Martin on the grass has made a double overtake there to avoid Paul Laramie and his teammate Eric Axelson. Oh, but he's sideways on the exit. Is that going to give Eric the run? It looks like it might do. It's going to be close. As we can see, Scott's closing in a little bit. And it looks like Andy Carroll's managed to make his way forward as well now. So it's all kicking off. And the two Mean Green Racing Team cars are side by side on the exit there as well. They're still side by side, but it looks like Eric Axelson has now made that move stick up into 6th place on Josh Martin. But great racing and action all the way up the grid at the moment. And it looks like Scott is beginning to reel in Rich on this lap at the moment. He gained a couple of tenths in that first sector. We're going to see the middle sector split quite soon. Then we'll get a better picture. It's a bit even actually. So not as much as I was expecting. Andy Carroll is closing rapidly on Reese Bell at the moment for 3rd place. And it looks like with all the chaos, that's hardly unsurprising, knowing Andy Carroll is one of those people who just picks up the little places where he can. He just keeps it clean, keeps it all under control. It looks like Reese might have gone deep there. Is that going to give Andy a run? It looks like it is. I think Reese has gone deep into turn 1, and that's him dropping down to 7th place now. Now 8th. He really has had a big run off. Yeah, but now Joel Lask, after that moment on lap 1, is up to 7th. He's not a world away from the 2 Mean Green Racing Team trucks, which he's always gone wide though. He's gone wide. Is that going to enable Elliott to pull a move on Joel? It looks like it is. As I'm praising Joel, he makes a mistake. And it looks like Reese has had another little mistake there as well. So it's proving a little tricky in this second race now for the drivers to keep that consistency up. It's like Eric is slowly dragging himself towards Paul Laramie now, as we can see Joel shaping up for a move on Elliott again now. The gap's down to pretty much nothing between the two of them. We'll see in the background if they can make the move stick, but Eric is really closing on Paul Laramie now. We'll see if he gets a good exit. Looks like he had a much better line through that final chicane. But Paul Laramie's had a good run on Andy Carroll, so he could be getting a big fight, as it looks like Scott Bugner and Rich Hayden are going at it for the lead. Andy Carroll is up the inside. They're side by side, but I don't think Scott's going to be able to hold it alongside. He wasn't, but Andy Carroll is now up to 3rd place. So you've got 2 major battles illustrated quite well there, and then a 3rd one in the background between Joel and Elliott for 7th place. But can Eric make a move on Paul Laramie? It looks like Andy Carroll's gone a bit wide there, so is that going to open the door for Paul Laramie to try and get alongside? It looks like it is. Is Scott shaping for the move for the lead? Not quite. Rich cuts him off there, slams the door, says no thank you, not today. But in the background we see Paul Laramie going off in the background, Andy Carroll going off. That's enabled Eric and Josh Martin through. Now is that going to give Joel and Elliott the chance to make a move? Because they're also side by side. And yes, Joel's managed to make the move on Elliott and Paul Laramie on this lap. So he's now up to 6th place. But we've got a real fight for the lead by the looks of it, because Scott is closing in on Rich Hayden. And he's had a good exit, has Scott. I think the move might be coming here. We'll see how he does down the straight. But it looks like they're going to be side by side into turn 1. Oh, but Scott dummies him and he's up the inside. Can he send it in late enough on the brakes to make the move stick? Is there going to be contact? If the camera panned round, we'd know. And it looks like, yes, Scott Bugner has managed to get back to the lead. And it looks like it's going to be a double win. But it looks like it's going to be a podium for Rich Hayden. As with 6 minutes left, he's got a 6-second gap back to Eric Axelson. So it looks like we are going to see a happy Rich Hayden on the podium. But it looks like Scott is going to have a great start. He's out for retribution. As I say, Andy Carroll's going wide in the background. Is that going to open the door for Joel Lask? I think it will. We'll see in the background as they pop up in a second. Yes, and it looks like Elliott is shaping for a move on Andy Carroll as well now. But now the question for me is, can Rich fight back? Because in the past we've seen people make the move and then clear off. And we've also seen people make the move and then be overtaken. And it turns into a bit of a scrap. So will we see Rich hold up the pace with Scott, and will we see some moves for the lead? Looks like Elliott is trying to make the move on Andy Carroll in the background here. I don't think he's going to shape for it in the final chicane. Seems that's not the optimum place to make the move. You have to be up the inside into the final chicane to make that move stick. Now, Eric Axelson has set a big lap on that last lap. He was on a 23.9, which is 0.6 quicker than everybody else. Well, the next quickest car on that last lap. So I wonder if he's going to be able to reel these two in. If they start battling, it will really open the door for them. Looks like Elliott has now dispatched of Andy Carroll for 6th place. But no, not quite. It's close. It looks like now he's going to have made the move, as I think that's going to allow Paul Laramie through. It is, and Paul's going for the move on Elliott now, and it's also allowed Reese Bell through. That's going to be close into the braking zone. No, Paul Laramie has done a bit of a mistake there. Elliott's gone wide. I think he might have ended up on the grass or something there, because he got a very big snap of opposite lock, and Elliott went wide as well there, and that has their side by side further back. Are we going to see them go side by side into the final chicane? Is somebody going to yield? It looks like the answer to that is no, and he taps Paul Laramie, and I think that's Paul going straight on there. It is, unfortunately, and it looks like we've got a few invalidations going on. You can only get 3. I think that is a timing glitch that just put Eric at the top there. Unfortunately, all of the Eric Axelson fans got really excited and then back down to the reality of he's still where he was, but he is reeling them in. On the last lap, he was 7 tenths quicker, so he is catching them at a rate of knots. But I don't, unless there's a battle between Scott and Rich, that's what Eric is hoping for. That's what Eric needs in order to win this race, or have a chance at a win. Because at the moment, his pace is spectacular compared to those around him, but unfortunately, their pace isn't bad enough for him to be reeling in the huge deficit that he's got at the moment. But if these two start battling, or if they get too many invalidations, which I think that might have been for Rich Hayden. He had one on the previous lap as well. So is that going to be an invalidation and a track cut? It was an invalidation for Rich, so he's got to be careful now. So only 3 tenths. As he goes for the lead, Rich Hayden up the inside. Is he going to make it stick? And it looks like they're side by side. No, he doesn't make it stick, but he did go for the move. But that sort of battling is what I'm talking about. That's going to slow them down. We'll see through the first sector split, which we will get very shortly, what damage that has done. You can see the gap between Eric and Rich coming down at a rate of knots. And to answer my own question on that, the damage is half a second just from that. And they're side by side now. So this is really playing into Eric's hands. They haven't got much room to work with when it comes to how much they can battle here. But it really looks like Rich has got the pace to take it to Scott today, which is something I'm not sure I would have expected, but I'm happy that we've got a battle. And it looks like it's going to go right down to the wire, because it looks like Rich is ready to make some aggressive moves in order to try and get this win. I think he's probably his only ever win, as it looks like Scott's going to have invalidated that lap as well there. So the track cuts, I think, are going to be coming into play if they're not very careful. It's going to be tight for the final lap. But I think this might be it. It's going to be very close for the final lap. But I think Rich is going to have to send it in a different place in order to try and get this win. Eric was 1.1 seconds quicker than these two on the previous lap, but unfortunately he's going to need far more than that if he wants to win the race. But I think Rich has got a good exit here. I think he might fancy a little send up the inside here. Oh, as we get a little screen freeze there. Apologies about that. Is he going to send it to the inside? Now Scott defends it well there. He parked it and got the power nicely there. That is going to have dropped the gap down a little. But I think Eric's made a little mistake somewhere, because he's not quite as close as I'd expect him to be. But Scott's had a good exit onto the back straight. So now I think he might have this one in the bag, as I think we are going to be on the final lap, as Scott's definitely taken a track cut there. And I think it is going to be the final lap. Yep, that's it. It is going to be Scott Bugner who takes the double win ahead of Rich Hayden and Eric Axelson rounding out the podium finishers. And we see Josh Martin in 4th place, Joel Ask in 5th, Elliot Dalton-Ayre 6th, Reese Bellholm in 7th. We've got Andy Carroll coming across the finish line in 8th, Paul Laramie 9th, John Jones in 10th, and Stuart Vickers in 11th. After, unfortunately, we saw a DNF for Kenny Press after his incident on the first lap. But what a start to the Trucks event. That was some thrilling action all throughout both races, especially that second one. That was some real great racing, and it was all really fair for the most part. There wasn't much large amounts of contact. Synchronized drifting from Rich and Scott there, and I think a really good way to kick off this 3-part special event. Yeah, that was absolutely mega. That was good fun to commentate on, and we've now had everybody cross the line, so those results should be finalising themselves shortly. And I'll have a look, see if we can figure out who's got fastest lap. It looks like Joel has pipped Eric by less than 1/4 of a tenth of a second to get that fastest lap. Wow. So it really was that close between them in the end, but unfortunately, had Joel not lost that 6 seconds at the start, that would have put him ahead of Eric in 3rd place. So it's going to be interesting to see how that resolves the championship table after that long 2 races of action. And of course, that is the first instalment of 3 in our truck racing championship. We've got Thruxton, which, if you thought the racing was crazy and close around here, it is going to be even more around Thruxton. Guys, that's really one of those tracks that I say is all about racecraft. It doesn't matter what your pace is. If you can race well, you're going to have a good race there. You do need a bit of luck with that, of course. But if you race well around Thruxton, you're going to get some good results, even if you're slightly off pace. So I would expect that to favour some of the real world drivers like Scott Bugner, Josh Martin, John Jones, Paul Laramie. I would expect that to favour them, which it did in NASCAR on the whole as well. When it was about racecraft and awareness a bit more, they managed to shine through as some of the with some good results throughout the that special event. And overall, only just I'm not sure if this is quite correct. Because it doesn't have Scott at the top. But we will have a look. Has it concluded the second race? Hold on a minute. Scott Bugner has had a time penalty of 20 seconds added. It says 2 session penalties. So that will be for corner cutting. For Scott Bugner. So it does in fact mean that the man, the myth, the legend, Rich Hayden, has won in VRRC again. Unbelievable. That is crazy action, which just sums up this crazy special event. But I just looked at the order, and it had Joel in first, which I wasn't overly surprised about, but it had Eric second and Rich third, and not Scott, who won both of the races. So I thought, hold on a minute, something's wrong. And I've had a look at the race 2 results, and Scott Bugner 20 seconds worth of time penalties. So that's 2 corner cutting penalties, one of which might have been on the final corner there. Wow, that was some top tier drama, if you like. Yeah, that is wow, that is incredible. I don't know if Rich actually knows this. I'm gonna see if he wants to have a chat on the broadcast. But wow, I'm not sure he knows. That's incredible. We've managed to find us. Rich, do you know you've won? He did. I need to add the Discord audio to the audio, but yes, so people can actually hear you. Yeah, he cut twice. Unbelievable. But that does mean, yeah, it was fun to watch. It 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 was really good to watch. Yeah. But is this your like second ever win? I seem to remember you saying you've only won at Monza.
Second ever win in one of my own championships, yeah.
Well, congrats. That was crazy racing, though, in the end.
It was good fun, yeah, it was good fun. It just actually proves you can race really close in these trucks as well, because me and Scott were pretty close for most of that second race, weren't we?
Yeah, it was crazy throughout the whole field in the end. It was unbelievable. I didn't know where to look for most of it. I was just shouting and then occasionally like changing to what I was shouting about. So there was one shot where you could see 3 separate battles where everybody was pretty much side by side.
Yeah, it's tell you what, they're really tricky to drive these things, but I guess one of the good things is the more people are getting used to it, the easier it is. It's not literally, even with traction control on, you can't floor the throttle, because if with traction control on, if you floor the throttle, you're just not going anywhere. It's just cutting in all the time, and if you haven't got traction control on, you're just drifting the whole way round. So yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, it certainly was to watch, and there was plenty of chaos and carnage, but in a respectful way for the most part. There were a few misjudgments in the braking zones, I think, where people were still getting
Reese
used
said he missed
to...
one of his braking zones.
Yes, sorry to Reese, but we caught that one on the broadcast a bit. He was definitely not the only one, though. I think a lot of people had issues with dropping the car in braking zones. And because they're so heavy, you have to brake so early.
Well, you have to brake early, but you also have to turn in probably 10 meters earlier than you would normally want to turn in.
Yeah. I can't remember
and also
who said it to me, but somebody said to me, it's like if you turned in at what you think is the right point, you should have turned in about 20 meters earlier.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. And also, just getting the power down on them is one of the key things. Getting the rear wheels not. I mean, the front tires are just overheating to buggery. They're really, really hot. But the rear tires are just trying to keep the traction on those. It's a mix between you've got red hot fronts, fairly cool rears, and just no traction on the front or on the rear. It's good fun though.
Yeah, it was a challenge to drive when I did the practice laps. I was like, oh, this will be interesting. Because the fronts were cooked, pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
It's like
all I'm doing on that is I'm managing the pressures and keeping them in the green, which is maximising the available grip. So it was good fun.
Yeah, you could see, especially in race 1, certain people were pushing, cooking the tyres, and then they lost all the time they'd gained.
Yeah. Well, in race 1, I lost all my force feedback at the end of the first lap.
Oh, wait, didn't you get like 4th in the end?
Yeah.
With no force feedback.
I had the force feedback on game settings set too high, so when I was hitting the sausage curbs, it was just clipping the FFB, and
Yeah.
then it just failed at the end of the first lap when I went through the final chicane. So I literally did
Oh.
every lap after lap one with no force feedback at all in race one.
Fair play. That is good. Do you have like full motion on as well?
Yeah, everything was working. It was just there was just no feeling through the wheel. It was just totally light. So
How's the final chicane with your motion system?
I switched it off.
Fair. You're not going like bouncing like this over the curbs.
I was. That's why I switched it off, because I've not really tuned the motion for this truck. So yeah, it was. I
You're
was
not
almost getting
sent
tipped
to
out
the
the
moon.
side. Yeah, exactly.
I was
that.
speculating how you'd fare with that on the broadcast earlier. I was like,
Well,
yeah,
everybody was
Rich
saying they
does
were going to
motion.
ram me.
Of course, yeah. It was the same in NASCAR, to be fair. It was like,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
shouldn't have told people you had a motion rig. They've immediately realised there's a bit of a trick for that one.
Oh, that was fun. That was fun. Cool. Right, well, we're on to
Yeah.
Thruxton next week.
Yeah,
That'll
we
be
are.
fun.
That'll
Imagine
be
what those front
carnage.
tyres are going to be like at Thruxton.
Oh yeah, they'll be finished.
Yeah, and the final chicane. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh, please turn your motion on for my entertainment for that.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll set up a cam as
Wait.
well.
Oh yes, we so need that.
I'll put a cam behind the rig, pointing at the rig, so you can see how much it's leaning.
We need to put it on like Zoom, so then when you're about to have an accident, we can just go to it and then see you getting launched out the seat.
Oh dear. Right. Okay, I'm going to go. Thanks very much for doing that broadcast, Lewis.
No problem. Well
I'll
done
speak
on
to you
your
soon,
win.
mate. Thank you very much.
So there we go. Our VRRC winner, Rich Hayden. Wow, didn't think we'd be saying that the first round of predictions, but that was a really good race from everyone throughout the grid. I'm really impressed with the standards of driving. For the most part, there were a few moments where it's really people getting used to the truck. It's a difficult beast to tame, and it's especially difficult when racing, because you've got to do everything so early. If your brain hesitates for a split second, you've missed your braking point, you're off the road. It's really difficult to race on the limit. But for the most part, people did it really well, so I was really impressed by that. But as Rich says, tune in next week to Thruxton, and we'll see some even more crazy action, I think. I'm really looking forward to it. Of course, there are other things you can get involved with on VRRC. I haven't transferred over the graphic from my other VRRC streams. Of course, we've got time attack events, which are open to members. I believe the Formula 3 time attack at Austria is finishing on Friday. We'll then have the Formula 2 time attack starting either at the end of this weekend or at the start of next week. So that's something you can get involved with. We've got a fun race coming up. I believe that is next Tuesday. Yep, Tuesday, 4th of April at 7:30 in the Formula 1 cars at Melbourne. So that's we kind of decided that it would be a good idea to try and use real world events as a model for our fun races. So simulators are, I think of sim racing in two regards. Half of it is trying to replicate the real world, and part of it is trying to do racing in a new and cool way. A lot of things we do at VRRC are a bit of both. We've done the Civic Cup Championship a while back. That was replicating the Civic Cup real life calendar, the car, and all that kind of bits. It was very similar to the real championship, but we've done things like the MX5 Championship, where we gave it different tyre compounds, we gave it hybrid, adjustable diff, adjustable brake bias, bunch of new things for the car, and we just had fun with the fact that sim racing can be very different and very interesting, and both of those are were very successful championships in very different ways. But in this case, we're going for let's use the fun races to give people the opportunity to try out what it might be like to drive in the real thing in the sim, and with some real quality drivers, some solid rules, and hopefully have a really good time of it. So you can get involved with the fun races. Some of those are hilarious combinations. We've done a T-Rex. The dinosaur T-Rex. Yes, that is in this game, believe it or not. If you haven't seen the Twitter post about that, it's been going absolutely viral. The T-Rex and all of the other crazy things you can mod into Assetto Corsa. But we've done also things like Indy cars, done radicals. So we go to all points of the sim racing compass, if you like, for the fun races, and they are free for anybody to get involved with. All you have to do is join the VRRC Discord. If you're on the VRRC channels at the moment, that'll be in the description. And if you're on my streams, you can type !VRRC in chat, and that will bring up a link to the Discord server. If you go into the Discord server, you should be able to see some bits on the left-hand side, some channels. And you can contact myself or Rich, or you can ask anybody really, and they'll everybody's very helpful and will help you get involved with sim racing and with us in whatever way you might fancy. And of course, we've got our next championship coming up in the touring cars. That'll be starting at the end of this special event. I think there's a week break between the final round of this at Brands Hatch and the first round of the touring cars, where that practice server will be open for people to pick cars. As a matter of fact, the testing server is currently open, and we've had a lot of different laps. Everybody's been trying out different cars to see what they like, what they don't, and at the moment it is not really a surprise that Jack Smith is topping the times at the moment, and we've got Scott Bugner in second, Elliot Dalton Ayres in third, Rich in fourth, Andy Dorman returning in fifth at the moment, but these are all just general testing lap times. It's kind of like F1 testing. You don't know how representative it is, but it's quite interesting to speculate anyway. But Jack Smith is returning. That's kind of the big takeaway from all of that. Those of you who have watched Jack races before, he is incredibly quick. I would say he is the quickest of the people who have raced with us recently. We recently did the Formula 4 time attack at Monaco, and I decided to participate. And Jack gave me a good run for my money there. He put in an absolutely mega time. I did plenty of lap in single player to try and beat it, and I think I matched it, but I couldn't beat it from the few laps that I did. He was very, very quick. And he's very quick in every car, so that's going to be a real challenge for the other drivers to try and see if they can topple Jack. But yeah, that is what you can get involved with VRRC wise. Tune in next week for Thruxton. Until then, I hope everybody has a really good rest of their week and weekend. And thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in a week's time.